Welcome to the Skillfully podcast. Skillfully is the site for top-class courses for professionals in financial services and other fields, and you'll find us at skillfully.co.za. And today we're with Tim Davies of Financial Training Solutions, which prepares candidates for their CFA, their Chartered Financial Analyst exams. And Tim and his team have trained well over 1,000 candidates to pass their CFA levels 1 to 3. We're delighted to say that all of their prep courses are available on Skillfully. Now, the CFA is the global standard for investment industry knowledge, and it is really known to be a stiff challenge with low pass rates. So I want to talk to Tim, who is a CFA charter holder himself, about mindset and the habits that work for successful CFA candidates. Tim, welcome today.
Great. Thanks, Greg. Nice to be with you.
Tim, let's kick off with a broader question, which is this. What is the value? What's the point of getting a CFA?
Well, Greg, as you mentioned, the CFA charter, it is known internationally as the gold standard in the investment industry. So it's not only recognized, obviously, in South Africa, but all over the world in all major markets. So it's written, the same exam is written here as written in the UK or America or Asia or South America. Europe, everywhere you go in the financial markets, you're going to find CFA charter holders. So if you do have the CFA, it sort of sets you apart a bit, having the gold standard. And then it's going to advance your career in the investment industry because it's highly sought after. So if you can obtain the CFA charter, it really does progress your career in a very good way.
It's a sort of neat and succinct answer. It's kind of difficult to argue with. I mean, as a kind of international gold standard. So wherever you've trained, people understand you've reached a certain level when you are interacting with them.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Now, Tim, you've worked with so many CFA candidates over the years, from, as I understand it, from actuaries to classical pianists.
Yes, that's
and if
right.
you think of this huge range, I imagine, of people you've worked with,
yes,
can you see any things that they have in common if they were successful candidates, whether it's in terms of their mindset or their habits and practices?
Yes, Greg, I would say the first thing is perseverance, because the thing with CFA, it's not so much the difficulty, but it's the volume. There's so much work with CFA. Yes. So what we find, it's not so much the clever people that pass, but right. It's the hard-working people. So you really need to, apply yourself and dedicate yourself. And those are the people that get through the CFA program.
Perseverance.
Yes.
So it's not so much the brilliant people. I mean, if you have somebody who has already had a good commercial and potentially financial background, has always done extremely well, it's felt almost effortless to them, perhaps. I guess you would say something quite different to them when they entered the CFA, that maybe habits that have worked for them until now are not going to continue doing so.
Yes, yeah, we find, no matter what your background is, even if you have a strong financial background, it's going to help, but not everybody knows everything with CFA because there's so many topics. It's a very broad curriculum that you're not going to, even if you have a good background, you're still not going to know everything that's in the CFA curriculum. There's new stuff for everybody. So you've got to come in with the attitude that, that you've got to be humble and you've got to, understand that it's a long journey, and you've got to go in with a mindset that I'm going to enjoy this. So it's also right. the people who, a lot of the people who do well, that it's what they want to do. So if you are interested in investments and financial markets, and that's what you want to do, you want to be a portfolio manager, you want to be an asset manager, you want to work in the markets, you want to work with money, you want to build portfolios, you want to, be a portfolio manager. If that's your passion and your desire, then you're going to enjoy this. And so I always like to say to our students, as soon as you start understanding the curriculum, you actually start enjoying it, and you can start applying these concepts into the work. And as an example, this week we had somebody he's the CEO of a big construction company. I never thought we'd get a CEO of a construction company, but he's never going to work actually himself. And this is a different scenario. And he's never going to really work as an investment manager himself, but he's more for his own investments. So that's another angle. So if people who enjoy and they want to, for themselves, also gather knowledge of how can I invest my own money. So you've got that angle as well. So people who do well are those who really want to learn about investments, either as a career with a big investment company, as big asset management company, or we should rather say, they want to, for themselves, learn about investments and about markets and then manage their own funds. So then there's so much interesting stuff that we learn in CFA, so that when you start enjoying it, that's when you actually start doing well with your CFA.
I like that, Tim. So, you began with perseverance and humility. You will need to work hard no matter what your background is. You can't assume you know it all, because you absolutely won't.
Yes.
And then went on to kind of meaning and enjoyment. So maybe it's a professional meaning because you want to work as a financial analyst, and maybe this is for your personal investments. But in any event, once there is a meaningful goal ahead of you, it will power you and you'll enjoy it more.
That's it. That's what you need, and that's how you do well in the CFA program.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Tim, I mean, a lot of people doing this are certainly not going to be studying full time for the CFA, right? They'll be holding on full-time jobs, or I guess on occasion there'll be students who on the side will be working on a CFA as well, at least beginning work on it. Do you have advice for how people can fit the CFA as part-time but serious study into their lives?
Yes, that's a very good question, Greg. What I can tell you is from my own experience. When I did this CFA, I was working, and what I did is from Monday to Friday, I did 2 hours a day. So there's already 10 hours for the week. And then Saturdays, I did 5 hours, and Sundays, 5 hours. So there's another 10 hours. And then that gave me 20 hours for the week. So what you need to basically do is phone your friends and say goodbye. That's what I always like to tell students.
Oh, no.
Tell them you're not going to see them for a few months, but after the few months, then they can have double your time. But for now, you're not going to be seeing them.
I guess the occasional call or check-in, but
that's
not,
about it.
a leisurely lunch on the weekend.
That's it. So you need to do like about 20 hours a week. And what I did is I did that for 20 weeks. So that gives you 400 hours. So 20 weeks is about 5 months. So you need to do, if you can do this 20 hours a week for 20 weeks or for 5 months, that's going to give you 400 hours. Because on the CFA website, they talk about, the average student reports, or the average successful student reports spending about 300 hours studying. Now, I don't know how anybody passes this exam by studying 300 hours. That's why we say, let's do minimum 400. And what I did is, in the week or two before the exam, I just did CFA full-time. And in that week or two, I did another 100 hours just doing mock exams and revising. So I actually built up closer to 500 hours for each level. And that is how you get through. So like we were saying just now, it's not so much the difficulty, but it's this volume. So if you can put those hours in, it's just all about studying hard and then just approaching it the correct way, which we can talk about just now, how we can assist the students then with this process so that they follow the correct phases so they can then be prepared to write the exam.
Wow, I mean, that really sounds like a case of easier said than done. That extra 20 hours a week, 5 Monday to Friday, 2 Monday to Friday, and 5 on weekends. I mean, that certainly takes discipline and
10 on weekends, 5 Saturday,
5 a day on weekends.
Yeah.
Did you used to do that? What, would you just wake up and go for it, or would you sort of Tuesday afternoon. Did you feel there were sometimes that were better than others on the weekend? Did you sort of punctuate bits through the day? One
Yes,
big
you
chunk?
do have your good days and your bad days, but that's
Yeah.
what you're going to try and average. So sometimes I would wake up early
Yeah.
and do an hour before work and then 1 hour after work.
Mm,
But sometimes just after work or sometimes just before work. It just depends, how you feel on the day.
mm.
But what I find is with the CFA is that the weekends are your precious time because that's when you're fresh.
Right.
And as we said, we're not socializing now when we're doing the CFA. So
Yes.
we're basically going to spend the time just on the weekends, basically, or almost all the time just with the CFA. But it doesn't mean it's not as bad as it really sounds because you are going to
Mm,
find time in between to do what you need to do. We
yeah.
are making it a little bit light and a little bit
Mm,
of fun, but you got to find the time and dedicate yourself because it goes quickly. It sounds impossible. This how
mm.
am I going to get 400 to 500 hours? It sounds impossible,
Yes.
but you find a way, and it's doable. It always seems impossible, but it's definitely doable, and thousands of people have done it around the world. So if they can all do it, then so can we all do it. So it's definitely doable.
Yes. I like the idea of getting inspiration from really the literally thousands of people who've done it already
Yeah,
in all walks of
there's
life. Yeah.
yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, I think there's over 180,000 CFA charter holders around the world.
Mm.
So, and those are just the ones who applied themselves and worked hard. That's all it is.
Now, Tim, some people are just in it for CFA one, no doubt. I don't know, perhaps this CEO of the building company you mentioned may just be doing CFA one, and some
Hmm.
people are in it all the way, for professional financial analyst purposes. They want to do one, two, and three. Um, if you're doing them all, do you think it is ideal to do one directly after the other, but like, getting back on a wild horse?
I would advise that because when you start with level one, you actually build momentum.
Okay.
And some of the knowledge from level one you use into level two, and from level two into level three. So while the knowledge is still fresh and you've got that momentum behind you, it's a good idea, to then do them consecutively as soon as possible.
Yes.
So what I like to advise is let's do one level a year, because now with they've changed recently they've changed exam dates where it is possible, for example, to write your level one in May,
Mm.
and then in November you can write level two. Now, although it's possible, I wouldn't advise it because then you're really going to be killing yourself. I know some people do it and they just want to get it over with,
Yes.
but I would advise let's do one level a year. So we work hard for 5 to 6 months, and then
Hmm.
we can have a break, and then that's when you can see your friends again for
Yes.
double time. Like we were
Yes.
saying just now, you can see them and catch up and have a little bit of a break. But then, the next year, let's do the next level. That's what I would advise. While we
One a
got the
year.
momentum, you
One a
want a
year.
year.
Keep momentum, but
Yeah,
less likely just to break down and burn out.
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
not kill ourselves. Yeah.
Tim, are there particular topics in the CFA syllabus or kinds of topics that you find over the years are especially challenging to candidates?
Yes, what I've found, especially here in South Africa, is that with quantitative methods, a lot
Hmm.
of our students struggle. Maybe our maths basics and fundamentals are maybe not as good as other countries. So that's one area that a lot of students struggle with.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
Another one is fixed income, because fixed income is very quantitative methods aligned. And
Yeah.
then I would also say derivatives is
Okay.
another topic that people often struggle with. Yes, so
Do you
those are
think
the three.
conceptually or because again the calculations can be complex?
It's a bit of both,
Hmm.
because it is quite maths orientated, but
Hmm.
also it can be quite difficult to understand some of the concepts because they are a little bit, weird in the beginning when you see some of this weird terminology and these diagrams and things that they can sort of bend the mind a bit. But here's the but: we can certainly, assist students there we've got different methods which we can maybe talk about briefly.
Yeah,
how we can get around this so that we can conquer them, and we can then score. Actually, we can score well on them on the exam.
Well, I'd love to hear about those methods. Maybe firstly, the methods for dealing with the tough things, dealing with quantitative methods, including the mind-bending complexities of derivatives, and secondly, maybe more broadly, the ways in which you're assisting students. I mean, I know FTS, from the feedback we've received, has a name for being very hands-on with students, very concerned with their improvement and advancement. So what do you do?
Yeah, so we always like to approach the whole learning process. We like to break it down into 3 phases. The first one is learning the material. There's no getting around that. You have to learn the material, and for that, we've got classes where we explain all the concepts to the students, and then that assists to understand, because that's the most important thing, is to understand the concepts, because as we said, although there are some tough areas, once you understand what's going on and you can apply it, then it makes it so much easier once you've got the understanding behind you. So we've got that learning phase comes first, and then after that, we've got question practice. Now, it's so important because when you do questions, even if you're not getting them right, you're applying the concepts, and when you're going back to the solutions, because the solutions are normally, very detailed, and then you can learn so much from doing the question practice, where you can apply the concepts and learn. So in the question practice, we partner with the company we can maybe talk about a bit later, Kaplan Schweizer, and they've got this fantastic product that I absolutely love. It's the Schweizer Q Bank, or it stands for Question Bank. And in that Question Bank, they've got over 3,800 questions, which are absolutely fantastic. So it's very important, as you finish each chapter, is you go to the Q Bank and you practice the questions from that chapter, because that is when where everything sort of comes together, and you can apply, even though you understand from the learning and from the classes, you've understood, now you apply, and that's how things all come together when you do your question practice.
And are these, in terms of the Q Bank, the Kaplan Schweizer Q Bank, are these authentic practice questions from past CFA exams, or are they exactly the sort of thing you would get?
Yeah, these are basically questions you could expect, and the standard you can expect. CFA Institute, they do not release past papers anymore. They did many years ago.
Oh, wow.
But there are no longer any past papers. So these are questions that they've devised themselves. And also, when you enroll with CFA Institute, of course, you get the curriculum from them. Right. And at the end of every reading in the CFA books, they've also got what they call practice problems. So there's another about 1,500 questions in those books which you need to do. So there's no shortage of questions. So in the CFA books themselves, those also, they say actually in the books that these questions were sort of adapted from past papers, or they could be used as a model for future questions. So they give you a very good idea of the standard that you need to know. So that question practice, and we explain to the students when we start that we have to do those practice problems from the CFA books, and we have to do our Q Bank, and that forms a very important block, for our learning and passing the CFA exam.
Yes, and it's very pragmatic. I mean, obviously, it would be a big mistake just to think, well, I conceptually get this, I don't need to practice the questions in the way they would appear in the exam. It's as big a mistake. I mean, people are familiar with this, I guess, from school mathematics, where it makes absolutely no sense to think, yes, I understand quadratic equations. We had a lesson about it and we talked about them. No, you don't really. Do these 100 problems of different kinds. And it will make complete sense to you and you'll be able to tackle what you need to.
Yeah, no, precisely. So that's why it's so absolutely vital, you got to do a mixture between the two. Some people just like to learn material and I think they can get through like that. Some people just like to do question practice and they don't really learn the material. And that's also not right, because you need to first understand and learn the stuff before you can apply it. So you got to go through phase 1, learning, phase 2, question practice, and then phase 3, we said there were 3 phases. So the last phase is doing the mock exams and review, because with Kaplan Schweizer, you receive 6 mock exams, and they are very important. And because when you do the mock exams in the couple of weeks before the exam, you should spend most of your last few weeks, hopefully even full time, just doing CFA. And when you do those mock exams, you do a lot of review at the same time, because you might do the exam and then where you went wrong, then you go back to your books and you learn, oh, this is why I got this wrong. So in that last couple of weeks, when you do I call it the mocks and the review section or phase, that's when everything sort of comes together in that last few weeks. It's amazing how, because you can be 3-4 weeks before the exam and you think to yourself, oh my gosh, there's just so much volume. I've forgotten what I did a few months ago, because I'm now, a few months down the line. We did quantitative methods first, and now we're down at alternative investments, and I've forgotten about quants. But when you start doing the mocks, because you've done the question practice for the quantitative stuff, it sort of comes back, and then you go back and you review, especially the stuff you're getting wrong in the mocks. And that's how everything then comes together in the end. And that's why for people, we structure things so that you've got that time at the end to do your mocks and your review.
And it sounds like you should either be timing your exam with some, annual leave from work, or taking off some special leave of some kind to get the most out of the mocks and review period.
Yes, exactly. And I've also got a standard letter that I send to the students to motivate them to get study leave, because employers will sometimes only give 1 day for an exam. But the thing with CFA, or maybe they give 2 days, but the thing with CFA is you're writing 10 exams in 1 day, because there's 10 topics in level 1.
Sure.
So my argument so when I was working, I said to my boss, I asked him, how many days do we get for each exam we write? And he said, you get 2 days per exam. So I said, oh, I'm doing CFA level 1, by the way, and I'm writing 10 subjects, so can I get 20 days leave? And he said to me, are you mad? So then we started high like that with 3 weeks. 20 days is like 3 weeks, basically. So we agreed then on 2 weeks. So that's why I've got this letter where I motivate that, we want at least 20 days, and then you work your way down maybe to 10 days, which is 2 weeks. So
do you find South African employers are amenable, or there's just a big range of responses?
It's a big range. It seems to be a lot of them are now going for the 1 week story.
Okay.
And
what, like 5 days?
And then you should then take your own 5 days of annual leave.
Okay.
But as I said, it's only like you're only going to do it for 3 years out of your working career of 40 years. So it's not a big deal. So but some employers will give you 2 weeks. So as you said, it's a big range. It's a big range.
And Tim, I mean, you've spoken on the Kaplan Schweizer material, including the QBank. I know that over the years, you and your team have prepared a lot of material as well.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So we've done for level 1, we've done our own set of slides and online classes where we explain the slides. There's over 80 hours of classes there, which takes you through the entire curriculum, from the beginning right to the very end. So as I said, we want to explain everything there in the classes so that people understand. And then if they, do have any issues, we're here to assist them, because we want to make sure that every student understands every concept, because once you understand, like we're saying, you actually start enjoying it. And once you start enjoying it, then you're going to have a very, very high chance of passing, because you're going to apply yourself more and more, and you're really going to get into it, and you're going to start, you're going to start flying.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one more thing, Tim. And I guess anybody listening to this entire discussion might be thinking now, phew, I've been planning to do the CFA, but I've been, putting it off for a while, and maybe I should just sort of put it off a whole lot longer. Maybe I shouldn't get started soon. It sounds quite tough. I mean, what would you say to somebody like that to motivate them to start studying soon, to start studying now, rather than just keep putting it off?
Yeah, well, I would say, the younger you are, the easier it is to do your CFA, especially because everyone who's going to do their CFA has done some type of studying in the past. So while you're still fresh and young and you got the ability to study, and it's still, it's still part of your system. It's, it's still ingrained in you to study and how to study. Yes. I would then, get going with it and not delay. Get it over with too, because, as we were saying when we started, it really does advance your career. So you want to get ahead of your peers. You want to be, you want to differentiate yourself. You want to be one step above. So get going, get that level 1 done behind you, so you stand out from the crowd, and then, do your level 2, level 3, get your charter, and then you're really going to set yourself apart, from many others, because in South Africa there are not that many charter holders. We said there's many throughout the world, but in South Africa there's less than 2,000, if I'm not mistaken. So it's still quite a small pool. Yeah.
Sure.
So but this is a lot more coming through now. But so it's definitely want to get this thing done.
Yes. So the reasons for the career boost, as I understand them, are A, better do it early while studying is still part of you, because young people have done a whole lot of studying. And B, isn't it better to boost your career earlier and enjoy the benefits for many years of that than do so much later?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, that's well put. Excellent. Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. That was very helpful. And I think it will also be useful to people who have embarked on the process or people who are considering doing so. Much appreciated.
Pleasure, Greg. Thanks for your time. We enjoyed it. And we look forward to helping many more candidates with their CFA.
Yes, and I know you will do that in a stellar fashion. So do check out Financial Training Solutions, FTS's courses. They're featured on Skillfully. You'll see CFA 1, 2, and 3 courses, which are offered online and in certain cases in person by Tim and his team. Thanks all very much.
Thanks, Greg.